Welcome back to the channel. It's the Bald Bearded Bicyclist, and this is my first win ever. It's my last Cat 4 race ever. So, kind of went out on top. We're going to tick it off from this race. This is the start of the second lap. I found myself very out of position. It was the one time I was really at the back of the pack, and I did not want to be at the back of the pack leading into this uphill section. So I had to start putting on power way sooner than I wanted to. I was putting down 600 watts to try to get back up to the front of this group before we hit this hill. So you can see my teammate Jim in red here. The two of us had a plan to just hit this hill as hard as possible every lap and see if we can get a breakaway, ideally with 3 to 4 people. The two of us were really looking for podiums to get our last upgrade points that he needed to upgrade it to Cat 3, myself to Cat 3. And also I had been chasing a podium. I hadn't even ever gotten a podium. I'd gotten a bunch of 4th places. At the Thursday night Fireball races, I've done well. I've gotten in the top 3, but no USAC race had I ever gotten in the top 3 before. So I was just trying to figure out, how to get in that top 3. And I think that's important to learn as a Cat 4. You may be strong enough to get your points into upgrade, but if you can't get in the top 3 in Cat 4, then there's still tactics that need to be worked out. And even though right before this race I had just enough voluntary points to upgrade, I didn't want to upgrade before I had really figured out how to break that top 3. So that time up the hill, really rough, really pushing it, but nothing snapped and I was near the back. I kind of sagged it a little bit due to the fact that I had to jump to the front before it, so we all stayed together. So on the first lap, I think there was a little bit of separation, but it all came back together pretty quick. And this time you could see that through the turn, it looked like Mike Maywald on Scicluna had put in a little bit of an attack, but it got brought back pretty quick. So now we are after the downhill section, and a couple of juniors do a little attack, and I try to jump on the wheel to see if I could get away with them, because hell, if I could get away in a breakaway of me and just juniors who are scored separately, then I'm guaranteed the win. People did not like that idea, so we quickly got brought back, and this is just a little bit further. I tried to always be near the front for that corner, just so that I wouldn't have to deal with any accordion effect. And Jim, my teammate, was right behind me, and when I realized that, I just kind of kicked up the power a little bit here through this turn. I didn't attack too hard, but it seemed like he was kind of giving me a gap and just saying like, hey, if you attack, I'm gonna let you go. So I just put on the power a little bit, and honestly I felt like maybe this lead car was a little too close. I may have been getting a tiny bit of a draft here. This section's also slightly downhill there, so that speed is obviously not just from the draft. But as the road picks up again, you see some guys behind me are putting in work to bring me back, but it was a valiant effort here, and yeah, it's definitely keeping my power up and my speed up. So it's a good try. I think I realized not too long after they were on my wheel. So I sat up, and Jim puts in a little bit of a counterattack. So working those team tactics and just trying to keep people on their toes. These guys just kind of ramped it up right from the front. So it got strung out for a little bit, but it gets brought back very quickly, and everybody's on it. So ideally the guys on the front would let it go and see if guys in the back would jump around or something, they could get a breakaway. But when the people on the front go, it just kind of ramps up slow enough that everybody works. This is just to show that I spent too much time on the front. So this is the 3rd out of 5 laps, and I was torn between falling back and getting a little bit of draft and making sure that I was near the front coming into the section that I want, which I wanted to be on the front coming into this hill. So obviously it was a little bit of a waste of energy, but to be on the front and really set the pace for this hill was my main goal, trying to get things to snap on this hill. So you could see I started bringing up the power a lot before the turn, which is where a lot of other people expect it. They expect it at the turn, and I think a lot of people gauge their efforts and try to plan for, it's only going to be a minute effort. But I tend to start it before the turn, and then if it's pretty strung out and there's a gap, I push all the way through the turn after the hill, and that way that effort becomes more like a 2-minute effort, and maybe people can't sustain that. So I was yelling out to Mike here to keep pushing. I really wanted him to be with us. I know that he's strong enough to help bring back a break. So, ideally we'd have everyone in the break that is, strong enough to do a breakaway and wouldn't, want to bring us. So I'm yelling out to these guys. I'm saying we got a big gap. We got Frank in the blue jumping across. He was killing it on those hills. And, I don't even think his position was that great to start, but he was able to jump across as we crested the hill. And we were still keeping the power on. We're going 27 right now. So for him to jump across was impressive there. We're all trying to communicate like this. I'm feeling good about this. I know everyone in this group, Todd, Jim, Frank, and myself, are motivated for a breakaway and are willing to really push it. So, I'm telling Todd, let's rotate, let's keep the speed up, short pulls here, and we'll see what can happen. Oops, just bumped my mic. So I fully committed to this one. I mean, just knowing the makeup of this break, I felt like this is the one. And you could see I was pushing maybe 350. And after that effort up the hill, that was no easy feat for me. This entire race, I think I normalized over an hour and a half. I normalized over 300 watts, and that's higher than my FTP. So I don't know mathematically how that's possible. I know that normalized power doesn't truly account certain things, but I think I'm better at those shorter efforts as long as I can find a little bit of time to recover, and then I have a fair bit of repeatability. So that's what allowed me to do that, and so I think this course was well suited to me, knowing that I could hit it hard up those hills, and if I was not, if I was in a breakaway, I could still keep the power on, but as long as I get little breaks in between when other people are on the front, I can recover. The problem with this course is that if the pack is motivated, you will have a very hard time getting away due to this downhill. So you can see behind us, they are really closing that gap now, and as we hit this little lift, these two guys, Mike and Josh, kind of tried to jump across, but the group behind was still just carrying so much speed from that downhill, and they didn't quite have the separation, so they really just kind of brought them up to the back of us, and I don't think I quite realized until right about now that, all right, everyone's back, and I was real bummed here. So this was one of the juniors, again, who they are scored separately from us. So I just kind of let these guys go. And we got Josh following, and then other Josh, and everybody just kind of lets them do their thing because we all kind of know they're in a separate race. It's a tough thing with a mixed field like that where people are scored separate. It gives you a big group, but at the same time, you may not have to chase every attack, so it's kind of a weird dynamic. So off the front here, you saw that red jersey go off. That's Jed from GVCC, strong rider. And I'm trying to maybe time out where I could possibly jump across. Like, I want to let him get a little bit of a gap so I can maybe make a move. I don't want to be too close, but I don't want him to be too far that it's gonna really burn me out if I do try to jump across. I see that Jim's swinging right and everyone's gonna follow, so I put the power on immediately as I know that that gap is gonna open as everyone swings over. No one really expected it, and I got the solo gap here, and as soon as I get close enough, I start yelling out to him, I'm coming, pick it up. And I'm hoping, he sees me, he starts picking it up. This is perfect. I'm thinking he's going to drop right in onto my wheel. I want to show him that I'm motivated by going right to the front and keeping our pace up. If I stop behind him, that gives an extra bike length for the back of that group to jump onto us. And, and then I think it's just the two of us at first. And soon after, I look back, I see a dark jersey. Originally, I think I thought this was Josh, one of the GVCC riders. Sorry, not one of the junior riders, not GVCC. And I tell him he's got to pull through because I felt like he kind of skipped a pull. But I find out when he actually pulls through that it was Tyler, and that he had just kind of gotten on, and that everybody else is right behind us at that point anyways. So unfortunately that one didn't work, but it was definitely kind of throwing everything in this race. And I think once Jim and I realized that the hill breakaway may not be viable, we were going to have to try some other stuff. So I started throwing in random attacks here and there, just to see what can maybe stick. Everyone's hurting, and playing against people's minds. I mean, some people are obviously probably just sitting in and waiting for the hill effort, so throwing in attacks in places like this before the hill, maybe it's going to crack people to the point where when we hit the hill, they're not going to have anything left. So we got little gaps here, and then I was kind of upset that people weren't really trying for this. Everyone was kind of sat up. So we had like a group of 4 that broke away when I made that attack. But I think everyone was just worried about the hill and not interested. We got teammate Jim. He came through. He was going to try it, which I appreciated, but it just got back to, he very quickly sat up, and I think he decided to save it for the hill as well. So this is the 4th lap and the second to last time up this hill, and we are pushing it. So these efforts are often, again, much longer than you might think. We started this probably before the turn. I'm pushing something like 500 watts here, so it's mental. You can see everyone struggling here. I think when looking back on the power for these climbs, it ended up being close to 2 to 3 minute efforts, normalizing like 450 watts or something like that, just with the pushing after to try to get the breakaways formed, and the starting early on the hill. So you can see people are starting to drop here. Unfortunately, Jim's dropping a little bit there. Frank, who's proven to be a hell of a climber on here, is pushing forward a bit, and we just don't quite get the gap on this one. So see if we keep pushing here. So you never know. People can still be hurting so much that if you kick it again after the yeah, so I'm like telling, oh yeah, so this is actually not as big of a group as I thought. So we really should have been pushing it more. I think we thought that everyone was on, and then until we made the turn maybe, and I saw that it was a much smaller group. So we do actually bring the pace up here, and maybe we could have made something work a little better too if we had just kept going. But it's good to see teammate Jim and again a bunch of strong guys. I think this guy on the front is a newer rider. He was really strong. And I've got John from True Path Racing behind me here, and I know him, and I know he's a strong rider, so I'm kind of reinvigorated with the thought that maybe a breakaway can work here. So I'm going to try to keep it going, but it seemed a little like the group was just disorganized, and I think it's partially the size of this group. We weren't quite flowing together. I mean, you can see our speed. That wasn't a particularly hard pull. Maybe I was already kind of giving up on it. But the speed's 25 here, and in the same place when we only had 3 people in a previous breakaway attempt, it was 26. So we are still away at this point. This is after the downhill when we hit that little riser where we got caught the last time. And we're pushing, but I think shortly I get a look at that group. I mean, again, this is kind of the place that if they're going to catch you, it's probably going to happen. And there's some strong guys on the front of the peloton really pushing to bring us back. You got Tyler there, and they are on us at this point. So you actually could see Mike Maywell here. This is just a little bit further in the 4th lap, coming into the 5th lap. He kind of attacked from the front, and people just let him go. So he's that second rider there. That first rider is a drop rider. So he's got a pretty good gap on us at this point, and everyone kind of looked around. My thought personally was, I know how hard our group goes at the hill, and I was really thinking, so you can see I'm going to try to get in position, bring up the pace already before we hit this corner, but I was thinking if we can get a small group away on this hill this last time, maybe we can bridge to Mike and have an extra guy in that breakaway who's willing to do work. So that's kind of my thought. It's like, go as hard as you can, get to Mike, which was, just helping spur me on a little bit here. And this is probably one of the first times up this hill that I was actually in somebody's draft for a little bit, but I wanted to make it as hard as possible. So I'm going to come around and see if I can get some people to pop, snap some elastic. So it's the last time, and I know it. I'm gonna go as hard as possible, knowing that this is our last opportunity to create a breakaway. And it's awesome to see Jim come around, and I see a gap, and it's really at this point just the 2 of us. It's like, wow, this could be it. Would love to have just our team get away, and knowing again that Mike is there, if we can push hard enough to get to him, that's the podium. That was my original thought, but I quickly realized that Frank is with us, which also okay with, because I know that'll give us better odds of staying away from the main pack. So we've got a pretty good gap here, 3 of us, and we're gonna quickly fall into rotation. So this is shortly after the downhill where we've been caught previously, and we're just getting to Mike, and I'm still thinking that we've got an opportunity to stay away. I'm yelling to Mike to hop into our group, and hoping that we can keep the pace up here. And I think to some extent it reinvigorated us a little bit to know that we got him, and we'd have an extra body. You can see I'm trumping up a little bit too much. You shouldn't spike your power quite like that when pulling through. You really want to roll it on and not hurt your brake mates, unless that's your point. Sometimes, I guess, on the last lap you may want to do that. But everyone's together at this point, and we are about a quarter of a lap left. So we've got, yeah, you can see 2 kilometers, a little under 2 kilometers, and Mike gets a little gap off the front again. Our group's been whittled down to 7 people at this point, so, and that's just, I think, attrition from that main climb. We were hurting people so much that we were just dropping a few people every time. So yes, it's kind of like a big breakaway, but at the same time, it's just people dropped themselves. We didn't really have a great move or anything, and did often get brought back. So Jim, thankfully, brings up the pace here and commits to bringing Mike back, which brings our entire speed up and is going to dissuade any additional late attacks. So everyone kind of sits up here for a second, and I was about to jump this gap. You can see my power spike for a second, and it gets closed out, and I was like, damn it. But at the same time, we'll see what happens. Maybe it was for the best that I didn't, but I was ready to go long and see if I could go solo, just knowing that people were hurting. I think in hindsight, that would have turned out poorly for me. But Jim is on the front, and he is willing to keep it fast. So this is a great scenario here. And I'm just kind of keeping my eyes. I'm looking to see if anyone is going to jump early, and I'm just trying to stay in his draft as long as I can, but I'm giving myself an out here. So this is why I'm taking a little bit of wind on the left, because I just do not want to get swarmed. And keep an eye on the back camera here. You're going to see John stand up here, and he's going to go early. I see him out of the corner of my eye. I hear him. I jump around Jim. I know this is too early, so I actually back off, and I let myself slide back into his draft. And then I pick it up again, and I let him take us up to speed. And as soon as he starts slowing down and dropping power, I come around, and I had no snap. There's like 850 watts, that's it. And I just hold it. But 34 miles per hour, no one can come around me. And that's it. That's the win. So, oh man, after 4 years of training, finally got my first USAC win. And that'll put me up to Cat 3. So thank you so much for watching. It's been a journey, and it's going to continue. So, subscribe. I'm not a crazy power guy. I think a lot of people assume you need to have some giant sprint or some wild power to win a race, and a lot of it is just timing. that sprint kind of shows you that I was in the right place at the right time, followed the right draft, followed the right moves, and 850 watts, I was able to take the win. So thanks for tuning in. See you on the next one.